problems that are faced by African schools need real African solutions. Not American solutions or solutions that you'd find in China. So I think this is where now I got introduced to efficacy in teaching. How does teaching become effective? And like I've just said, you're looking at African problems and genuine African solutions.
Welcome to Real Talks with Pinks. Thank you for the love we've been receiving on the channel. Keep liking, commenting, and subscribing to the channel. Today I have a special guest on the show. I'm going to ask her to introduce yourself, but just know that the series that will be coming up now in winter will be about people who are breaking boundaries and following their dreams. Can you please introduce yourself to our Real Talk viewers, Me?
Okay. My name is Mots'elisi Monaheng Ismael. I am a founder of the Suleimo Academy. I am a teacher. What else? Yes, that is me.
You're the founder of Selemo Academy and you're a teacher by profession. Okay, guys, our topic today, we're going to talk to Ms Mots'elisi Monaheng about the school that she founded, and we want to understand how the school works because, we're talking about education for the future these days. So we want to understand what motivated her to start the school and what the school offers. So maybe we're going to get straight right into the show. I think before we talk about the school, because we are talking about education, we would first of all like to know your education background and maybe your history in the education space.
Okay, so I'm a graduate of the NUL. I did my BSc in biology and chemistry.
Oh, okay.
And I think upon completing that, it was easier to get into teaching. So in 2007, I started teaching at Lesotho High School. So then I was science, chemistry, and biology teacher. In 2014, I left Lesotho High School, and then I went to Mots'elisi College. At Mots'elisi College, I started working as a biology and science teacher. That was in 2014. That's from August 2014 to July 2015. Okay. Then in 2015, I got promoted to become an IB diploma coordinator. And I also added to my teaching portfolio theory of knowledge as another subject that I was teaching. So then I was now a biology, chemistry, science, and theory of knowledge teacher. And then I was now in an administrative role as an IB diploma coordinator.
Interesting.
So then I think being in an administrative position then opened doors for a lot of professional development on my side, because when you are an IB diploma coordinator, you are actually like the principal to the IB part of the school. Okay. So then the school has three parts. It was lower school, middle school, and then upper school. Okay. So in upper school, so when you're an IBDP coordinator, you're like in charge of the entire program. You are the liaison between the school community, that's the parents, students, teachers, the headmaster, and the IB organization. So I had to undergo training. We did training with International School Leadership based in Canada. But at that time, I think that's when we were being introduced to online training. So I did training again with IB for coordination. I did training to teach bio. I did training to be able to teach theory of knowledge. Then again, now IB then introduced what they call education festivals. So there is the European Education Festival, there's the African Education Festival, there would be the American or the Americas Education Festival. So that, I think they introduced it in 2017. They introduced it in 2018 because I attended one in 2019 and then attended another one in 2020 just before COVID hit. In the education festivals, what they do is we are not looking at international education on a global scale. We are looking at international education on a regional scale because problems that are faced by African schools need real African solutions. Not American solutions or solutions that you'd find in China. So I think this is where now I got introduced to efficacy in teaching. How does teaching become effective? And like I've just said, you're looking at African problems and genuine African solutions to solve those African problems. So I think the issue of technology now kept coming in. We were introduced now to e-learning systems. We were introduced to now using technology as a resource in the classroom. We were introduced to using technology as means of accessibility in the classroom. In 2020, that's in February, just before COVID hit. This is the African Education Festival was held in Sandton, Joburg. Is Sandton in Joburg? Yes. Right. So this is where the then Think Ahead people were there with the schools that they had partnered with in SA. So I think they had partnered with Crawford Colleges. They have partnered with St. Stephen's. Those were the people that were there. So the teachers from the schools had collaborated with the experts from Apple on how to integrate the use of ICT into daily teaching. And that's where I got the idea. Then I think we like Apple products, they're nice.
Apple products,
yes.
The watch that you wear.
Yes.
And then the phones and then the
yes.
And the
so I think immediately then I went to iStore in Bloemfontein to get the watch. And then while you're waiting for them to, you want a specific, I want a white strap, I want, So while they're still looking for that, I had a conversation with them again about Apple education. And then this is February, right? And then March comes, COVID hits the world. And I think if the health sector was hit, another sector that was greatly hit was the education sector. Because whether you were in Australia, whether you're in Lesotho, schools just shut down. We were forced to go into teaching online for schools that could afford to. And teaching online is not teaching using WhatsApp. Yes, it's not. At that point, as teachers, we were not properly trained. Yes, we had the gadgets, we had computers, we had cell phones, but we did not know, we were not trained on how to teach using those. It was challenging. Students would not wake up. For instance, I had a class of S4 students. My biology lessons were at 8 o'clock. So 8 o'clock, I had a class of 19 students, but only 3 students would show up. And very quickly, you would have, during a Zoom lesson, there would be one child whose name is now reconnecting. This means the child has just switched on the laptop and is asleep again. So there were many challenges academically, those that had to do with personalities. those that had to do with our network providers, those that had to do with electricity in the country. But I think a lot of parents were not satisfied with what we were offering as schools. We were not making good progress with the students, and there was a lot of frustration again. I did say I was an IB coordinator then. At that time, exams were cancelled. Now, this is a situation. When you do IB, you know you're going for every subject that you're doing, you're assessed two ways. There's internal assessment. So this is work that you're doing here and your teacher is guiding you. And then there is external assessment, which is the exams that you take. The internal assessment usually in all subjects is about 20%. And then in the external assessment takes 80%. So if you are a student, you know that I'm going to put a lot of effort towards the 80%. And then I'm not going to put as much effort on the 20%. I know I can get the 20%. I have time to get the 20%. But then when that happened, exams were cancelled. So they were denied the opportunity to fight for the 80%. And they were only assessed on the 20%. So that's another thing, right?
Actually, this is where I get that. That's where your motivation came from. Because I want to fast track you. Because I can tell you have a lot to unpack. So I want to fast track you and say, I guess this is where the motivation came to start the school. Because at the time you were still with Macha doing IB as a coordinator. I want viewers to understand Selemo now, Suleimo Academy, which is what we're talking about. What does Selemo Academy offer? And you mentioned Apple, did you say Apple School or Apple Curriculum?
Yes.
Yes. We want to understand what is Apple Curriculum and what does Selemo Academy offer. Yeah.
So, yes, so that's the motivation. So, one, training. Empowering teachers, empowering learners on the use of technology.
Okay.
That's one thing that I felt came out of my struggles then, or the struggles I was going through. One thing was efficient teaching and learning strategies. From the first day the child comes to school, there's something that they are learning, and they should be assessed on that on a daily basis, such that should anything happen to the child, we are able to say this is what the child has, and we are able to make a proper decision that is fair on the child, whether we take the child to another level or whether we make the child repeat that level. So what Suleimo Academy is a hybrid secondary school. We are working on a hybrid model. We are using face-to-face teaching and learning techniques, but we are incorporating the use of technology in preparation for any transition, such that if the child is supposed to, for whatever reasons, be away from class, they are able to learn, but in a way that doesn't disadvantage them. So yes, we are working with iStore Education. iStore Education is a combination between Think Ahead Solutions. They no longer call themselves that. They are now iStore Education. So how we work with them is that they train us on the use of the technology, the iPads. We use the iPads and MacBooks. So they train us on the use of the technology. They help us integrate whatever you've learned on the use of technology into a curriculum. So the curriculum that we are following as Suleimo Academy is the IGCSE curriculum. However, the mode of delivery of the curriculum is what makes us unique.
Oh, I see.
In the sense that now we are using the technology and we also get support from them. For instance, we work with students that have special needs.
Okay.
The MacBook, the iPad, the iPhone have accessibility features that can help such students. I'll give a short example. We have a kid that is dyslexic. We learned through working with iStore that if the screens are orange, then it is less destructive to that particular student. So for that student, her iPad screen has an orange filter. Then for a kid that is dyslexic, they have a problem reading and identifying letters. So as accessibility features, you can use features like Siri, you can use features like text-to-speech, while we're still guiding the student to be able to minimize the learning barriers that they have because of the disability they have. But you find that they're able to read a storybook. They're not disadvantaged. If the storybook, now we don't even have to convert it to PDF. You capture it with the iPad, and then they just it highlights as it is reading. So they're able to also identify words and learn words as it highlights them.
I've actually heard that kids who are autistic as well are able to learn using iPads and everything that iPhone has to offer, because they understand technology more. So actually, when you were saying this, you reminded me that autistic kids are quite smart, but if you don't understand them and you're still using old models of learning, they will not probably get you. But now, tell us, what does education for the future look like? Because I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm just marveling at the mode of learning that you guys are using. And you said you guys offer secondary education. This means in layman terms that we understand in Lesotho is Form A to Form 5.
Yes, but we are only taking Form A to Form D.
For now.
Grade 8 to grade 11.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So what does education for the future look like? And what could you say to parents listening to try and understand why this is important for students to use technology in learning?
Okay, education for the future, I've talked about accessibility a lot. I've talked about effective teaching and learning strategies. What I'm realizing as we're looking into the international education sector, we are seeing a review into assessment, how assessment is going to be carried out. We might find that in the next 7 years, we are no longer having that assessment where students have to study a program for 2 years only to be assessed at the end. We might find that more subjects are going to include internal assessments, so that a child you have something that you use to assess throughout. A lot of schools, like the people that we're working with, we are also, because of you talked about autistic kids with special needs, we also have what is called iSchool Africa. We also have one consultant from them who works with us with accessibility features. One thing I forgot to mention, I said our mode of delivery is using tech, but we also do what is called personalized education. So we do assess our students when they come in. There's what is called cognitive abilities testing. It's a test that the kid writes. And then the test is informative on how the kid thinks, and therefore what are the things that you're supposed to look out for as an educator when you're dealing with that particular kid. And therefore it allows us to make an individual education plan for that child. So if it's a child that you have to look out for certain things, like we have another room where we don't put the colorful things because the kid is autistic, and therefore we try to minimize excitement of the senses. So once you know what could be the possible learning barriers, what we work on is to try and minimize the learning barriers for that child. So you could be having a class of 19 students, but you can actually tailor, looking at what are the challenges of another child and what are the strengths. Because another thing that I think we also miss out as parents, as teachers, is we have kids that are said to be gifted. They come into a normal classroom, they are not stimulated at all, and then they fail, but they are very intelligent. So that the test that we do is a test that allows us to pick out such learning barriers if they are there, to pick out if kids are gifted. But we also have our resident special needs teacher who works with every teacher. Yes, we do sit down on Wednesdays and we discuss our students, how is it going, and then she comes in and then offers intervention where intervention has to happen.
My mind is running wild when you're talking about specialized assessment to each kid, because I personally like education that is tailor-made for an individual child, because this issue of bringing 100 kids in one classroom and thinking one model will work for all of them is really not working. And I think in the past, is it 2 years here in Lesotho, the education system has sort of changed, but according to me, it hasn't changed for the better. There's this thing more I still don't understand. I have a nephew. I don't understand now how to do we even have tertiary institutions that are made for those kids between academically gifted. So I'm still very much confused with the education system in the country. I really don't know now. Honestly, it's such a mess, especially public schools. But I have a failing, they were fair. And then what? Okay. So what do you say about the education system in Lesotho, and are we really tailoring it towards the needs of our students? High unemployment rate, what is happening?
I am not going to comment much on that one because it's not for me to comment on. But I would also like to like us to appreciate Mepinki that when those changes are taking place, I think one of the things that teachers have been complaining about is not being trained, not having the resources. And while remember we had that strike, and then there was COVID.
Yes.
So I think
we lost 2 years.
Yes, we lost 2 years, and there were a lot of challenges. And I think me coming from a private education sector, I would really need to look into and understand what the challenges are. Personally, I don't think changing from Ngwana Hafeili. I don't really understand it that much. However, I do appreciate the fact that we can teach students at different paces. My stand on the whole thing is, as a teacher now, in the 21st century, I am no longer just a content provider or a walking, living encyclopedia.
Yes.
I now need the curriculum has to be tailored in such a way that I'm empowered to be able to see what learning barriers are there, and then help my students get over the learning barriers. So in that way, I think, yes, we won't say kids fail, but we can identify what it is that we need to address. In a time where kids can go onto the internet and get information, they need to be empowered on proper research skills. They need to be empowered on digital literacy. They need to be empowered on how to protect themselves from what dangers the internet is bringing, as much as the internet is like that. So I think going back to that question, school of the future, this is where we are addressing the needs of the individual child. True. And as much as a lot of people will argue with me, it is possible. Growing up, I had my grandmother, Ditabaneng, who had a table and took in kids in the afternoon. The differentiation that lady did in that kitchen. Onofisha Pinky, you were doing Ba Baby Bobu. I was here, and I'm now combining the Ba Baby Bobu to make words. And then that other one is advanced. Now they are writing paragraphs. But we were all doing Sesotho at that level. And what I remember about it was that because now it's tailored to me, I progress at a much faster rate.
And then lastly, I mean, there's a lot to unpack, but lastly, I saw you guys are having an orientation on the 7th of May. If more people want to find out about the school, what can they do? And if you have any details, obviously, I'll write them in the description box. But just about shortly as we close off, the orientation that you guys are having.
Okay, so we're having an open day. We are inviting students that would be doing grade 8 in August. If you're interested and your child is going to be doing grade 8 in January, we are open to that. So on that open day, we are actually going to have the kids work on the iPads, on mini projects in maths, in science, and in English, just for them to get a feel. Also an opportunity for parents to interact with us and understand more about our model.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's interesting. It's fine. I'll write all the details in the box if they want to contact you about how they sign up for the open day. Thank you so much for explaining such a broad topic in a short space that we have on the show. But thank you for coming. It's been really interesting for me personally. I'm sure viewers will have so many questions in the comment box. I'm sure we'll have you again. Thank you for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.